Today we're going to be attempting J.R.R Tolkien's writing process. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leané if you are new here, and I'm a young adult romantasy author as well as a historical fiction author and a book editor, so the links to all of my novels as well as my editing services will be in the description, and also be sure to follow me on Instagram to stay updated with all of my writing and editing things. So just to kind of catch you up on what is going on in my writing life before we get started with what I hope to be a productive and cozy writing vlog. So I'm currently working on my first high fantasy novel. It was originally going to be young adult fantasy, but then I decided to turn it into adult fantasy. I started working on the book last year. I'm hoping to finish it before the end of this year, and I had written what I originally thought was going to be the first draft, but before I started the editing process, I ended up shelving the book temporarily, and then I decided to pick it back up again. I also decided that I was going to take the plot for book 2 and merge it with book 1 because I felt like book 1 was missing just a lot of world building and plot, and just in general that it needed more to it. So I have a lot of rewriting work to do for the first part of the book, which was originally written in a YA romantasy style. So we will be editing that during developmental edits. But for now, I'm currently drafting what was going to be book 2, but is now part 2 of book 1. However, how does all of this tie in with Tolkien? So basically, if you watched my previous video, then you'll know I watched the Dune films, which really kind of inspired me in terms of world building and politics. And this past weekend, I actually started watching the Rings of Power series on Amazon, which is basically, to my understanding, a prequel to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and I've really been enjoying that. And honestly, that has just inspired me so much in terms of world building and everything surrounding fantasy. There's so many things that I want to add to my book to give it the same feel and experience to the reader. Obviously, I'm not going to write a book that is equal or in any way similar to Lord of the Rings. I don't think anything is going to get to that ever, but I do want to take some of the inspiration and just turn it into a very immersive high fantasy novel. So obviously, if you didn't know, J.R.R Tolkien is the author of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which I have not read. I started listening to the audiobook of Lord of the Rings just to kind of have that in the back of my mind as I'm going through this process. I decided to temporarily stop drafting part 2 of the book and just work on expanding the world and the characters and basically just everything surrounding this series, because even though I'm only working on book 1, it is going to be a series, and obviously when you are working on something that's high fantasy, the world tends to be very expansive and there's so many things that go into it, and it's good to just have a way to keep track of everything, but also just to kind of write down all your ideas so that you can, I guess you could say, expand on them. So I originally, before I started writing this book, when I was planning it, I created this folder where I basically printed out everything from settings to character names to maps to synopsis to history of the kingdom, just about everything you can think of. But it is becoming a little bit impractical, especially now that I want to add a lot of new things that are part of the second part of the novel. So I'm basically switching over to an electronic version, and I'm putting everything on Notion, and that is basically what we're going to be doing today, is just working on the world building of this book and the series, because as you know, Tolkien really was an excellent world builder. That was his thing, world building and languages, but we'll get into a little bit more about Tolkien in a second. So before I continue drafting this book, I want to work on getting everything onto a digital format from what I have, and also just adding everything that I want to add. And then as I continue to outline and plot the rest of the books, adding all of my ideas onto this as well, so that I have one single space that I can come back to basically refer back to everything that is in this world and in this series, if that makes sense. So since we've been inspired by Lord of the Rings, since we're working on world building, and Tolkien is such a master of world building, that is why I decided to kind of try to make this video a little bit more fun and use his writing process to kind of guide us through this writing vlog. So like I mentioned, he wrote Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Obviously, he was also a professor at Oxford as well as a philologist, and he took 17 years to write Lord of the Rings, which hopefully this book does not take me almost 2 decades to write, but it is definitely going to be the longest book that I have ever written. So that's why I'm saying I'm hoping I finish it before the end of the year, but yeah, we don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really want to take my time with this project, which is why I'm not rushing through the world building or the drafting. I want to be as specific and as detailed as possible. So Tolkien didn't really have like a specific writing routine, which is why I'm saying that we're more so trying to be inspired by his writing process, or I guess his approach to his writing. So apparently a lot of the time he would write in the mornings, which is great because I obviously work my part-time job in the afternoon. So it's currently 10:30. I have been working a little bit this morning. I've been having so much computer trouble and laptop trouble, and my camera's battery died when I tried to start filming, so I didn't really have a mental breakdown. But we're here now, and we are going to make the most of the time that I have left this morning to write, and maybe tomorrow morning as well. We'll see how it goes. He also apparently liked to write in like smaller, more consistent sessions instead of just like one really long, intense writing session, which is great for me because you guys know I love my shorter writing sprints, so that is going to be very easy for me to stick to. He also said that environment is quite important. So although the study isn't exactly the coziest study or setup in the world, we are going to light some candles and try to make it a little bit cozier. I thought I could also put some Lord of the Rings-esque music in the background so that we have a bit of an atmosphere going. Tolkien also used to write by hand, which obviously we're not going to be doing today because I already have all my handwritten and typed notes. So we are going to be skipping over that process, but if I do get any kind of like random ideas and I'm not close to my computer, I do want to try and make use of writing in a little notebook. He also used to love to drink tea, especially during his writing break. So we are definitely going to be making tea, and he used to take a lot of walks to kind of reflect on his writing. So we'll also be doing that during our breaks. But this intro has been very, very long. So I think let's just dive into the world building, and then I will keep you updated. Right now, I'm trying to compile a list of all the magical creatures that are in the world. So I just finished with a river spirit, which is a scene I'm actually quite excited for, that I still have to write a few chapters on. Now I'm just gonna do kind of like a summary on the Fae, because the Fae are a very important part of the series. Everything basically revolves around humans and Fae and like their relationship with each other, I guess you could say. So I think I'm going to work on the summary of the Fae, and then I will update you again. You guys, I don't know what is going on in the world today, but I just feel like I'm having the worst luck ever, because last week when I tried to film a writing vlog, I spilled hot chocolate all over my laptop and it has been giving me some problems, so I should probably take it in to go and see if it needs to be repaired and how it needs to be repaired, etc., which I've kind of been procrastinating because it has been working for the most part, but yesterday it basically started turning itself off randomly, so couldn't work on my laptop. Then my actual desktop computer is very, very old, and I tried for like 20 minutes to get on Notion this morning, wasn't successful. So I plugged my monitor and the keyboard into a different computer, and then it was still giving me problems. Restarted the computer, it's finally working, I have everything open, I can work. And then what happens, this very lovely, amazing keyboard that I adore because of the satisfying clicky sounds, the spacebar no longer works. For some reason, the spacebar isn't working. So I'm about this far from reaching my wit's end. I'm about halfway through, yeah, I'm about halfway through writing down everything for the Fae. I'm gonna try and plug in my old keyboard and see if that works, and then I think it's time for a tea break. I think we deserve that now. I've been through a lot this morning, and I think it's time for some tea. I'm thinking that maybe we should really go all the way and get out the teapot and the proper teacups, you know, because why not? I actually painted the cutest little teapot the other day when my mom and I went clay painting, and then they dropped the lid and they broke it. So now I need to find, I almost broke it. So now I need to go and find a lid somewhere that I can replace it with so that I can use my own little teapot. I'm not gonna reach that. I'm gonna need a chair. And also it's more dishes. Do we get out the teapot or do we just get out a cute little mug? I did not realize how small this cup of tea was before I started making it. Now the pot kind of makes sense, but it's fine. I have my tea, I'm gonna have my toast, I'm gonna watch a little bit of YouTube, and then we're gonna get finished on the Fae section. It's a little bit later now. I just finished the section on the Fae, so what I'm basically doing is trying to take everything that I have already compiled and just obviously putting it into Notion, and then I'm also going through the outline that I have for 2 and kind of trying to see everything that pops up so that I can also put it into our database, if you will. So every time they encounter a magical creature, I'll put it in here, or if they encounter a new character, then I'll also add it to the character list. I'm going into quite a bit of detail with the magical beings because I feel like they're obviously very important in terms of, you know, being part of the lore of the world. So it's been really fun actually, like going into so much depth about the Fae and like their physical traits, their magic, their weaknesses, a little bit about their history. And yeah, I'm definitely seeing the appeal to world building because I'm not even thinking about drafting at the minute. I'm just having so much fun planning all of this, so I do see why Tolkien enjoyed it so much. I'm not going into a lot of depth about the characters. I do have like a character sheet for basically our 2 main characters, but I did think that maybe at some point I can go through the character list and kind of just add. So what I have now is just their name, a description of who they are in the story, and like a picture of them so that I can obviously use that to describe them physically. But I might add, you know, maybe like a little bit of backstory or just a little bit more detail about the character. I don't have to do like a full character sheet because that would literally take forever. There are so many characters, but maybe I can add just like a paragraph or something about them, and that could be useful in terms of like it might come up somewhere in the story, so that can help me lengthen some of the shorter chapters as well. So we will get around to that eventually. I think our next magical creature are dwarves, which I think is going to be a fun one. So I'm going to work on that for probably like the next half an hour, and then I think I'm going to have some lunch and go for a walk, and then we'll see how much time we have left before I have to leave for work. But I kind of want to work on this tonight as well, because like I said, I'm really enjoying this. Like, I'm having a great time. I just finished my lunch, so I think I'm gonna put on some shoes and then go for a walk. The sun is actually shining outside, and I think after all the stormy weather we've been having lately, it's going to be really nice just to get into some sun. I contemplated taking my headphones, but like I said, because the weather is nice, there's no wind or anything, I think I'm gonna enjoy just the silence of being out in nature, kind of. I'm still a bit like just walking in between the houses, but it's a little better than just being indoors. And I think also just not listening to music is gonna give my mind a little bit of space to like wander and reflect on my writing and everything. So let's go for a walk. It's now Tuesday, it's the next week, so I ended up not having more time to work on my world building like I hoped I would, which is honestly also fine. So we're just gonna pick up where we left off today, and I'm actually looking forward to continue working on my little digital database for the book and the series. So my plan for this morning is to go through all of the physical printed stuff that I still have, and to just basically make sure that I have a digital version of that in my Notion. And then I think I'm going to continue going through the outline of the second part of the book and kind of see what else pops up in terms of like characters and creatures and stuff that needs to go in here, because I think the last time I was busy with the magical creatures, which is honestly such a fun part to do because I got to add so much lore, which I really enjoyed. I had a great time with that, so I'm hoping we continue to have a good time today. But I'm just planning like a relaxed world building session, so I think it's going to be nice. But yeah, I'm gonna go through the second part's outline, see what else we need to add from that, and then I also have another list that I compiled last week of stuff that we need to add. Quite a few things, so I do think that'll keep me busy for most of the morning, if not all of the morning. So that's kind of our plan. Right now I'm busy with the outlines and the synopsis, so I'm just creating different pages for all of the like summaries and outlines that I have for each book. Obviously I have the entire outline for book 1, and then the outline for book 2, which now became part of book 1, and then the outline for book 3, which is now book 2, or actually not the outline, I have a summary for book 3, which is now book 2, and then book 4 is book 3 and book 5 is now book 4. So I only have the summaries for book 2, 3 and 4, which is also fine because we will get to expand on those outlines once book 1 is done, which is still going to be a good while. But right now I just want to copy the summaries that I have into Notion. So I'm going to do that. And then I also have some physical maps, but I don't think I have, I don't know where the digital copies of the maps are, to be honest. We'll figure that out as we go along. And then I also have some like information about the kingdom and the history of the kingdom and all that. That also needs to go in there. So I'm gonna do that for probably like the next hour or so, and then we might take a break. We'll see how it goes. We could go for a walk again. I made myself a cup of coffee, but we're definitely gonna make a pot of tea at some point. I feel like it is a necessity. So yeah, I'm gonna get started on that, and I will see you in a little bit. Okay, so I finished up with the outlines and now I've moved on to the maps. So I found some of the like older maps that I originally started with, but they weren't 100% correct, so I just wasn't 100% happy with them. So I'm trying to create a new one just kind of for reference. I'm just using AI to do it because I do not have the time or the patience to create a full-on fantasy map right now. So I kind of just want to take what I have and just have something to work with or something to reference. I am probably going to have to do like a proper fantasy map design at some point, especially as the books and the story progresses and we are going to get other kingdoms involved. But for now I think this is good enough. I actually quite like this one. It's not entirely correct because it says the kingdom of Avalon, but it's actually the kingdom of Emberfell, but it's fine. So I'm going to show you. It actually looks a lot better than the older ones. We've got some mountains, we've got a forest, oh, we've got a palace. Obviously this isn't super detailed, like there's so many things that could still be added, but I do think this is going to work for now. So then we have our maps ticked off, and then I'm gonna move on to just basic like history and world building for the kingdom itself. I think I'm pretty much finished with the history of the kingdom, at least all of the important events, all of like the major eras of the kingdom's history over the last 1,000 years, give or take. So I feel like I'm like 90% satisfied. There might be a few things missing here and there. I feel like I could still add a few historical events, but I think this is good for now. We'll probably add some more later. So now I'm going to move on to the myths and the legends of the kingdom. So one of the important ones is a prophecy, which is kind of like, I wouldn't say like the main driving force, but a pretty big driving force in, I guess you could say, like the overall plot of the story or the series. I feel like we need to add some other myths and legends as well. I think that'd be good. And then we just have some basic world building things like what kind of resources does the world have? How do people communicate? What is travel like? What's the weather like? What are the religions, the social classes? you know, well, how is society structured, things like that. And then I will be done with this section. It's now almost 11:30. I think I'm gonna take a break at 12. I might go get some iced coffee. I think I might also take my boyfriend an iced coffee because he's also working from home today and he has a lot of work. So I might go and see him and make some lunch and then head off to my other job. So I'm not sure how far I'm gonna make it today. I have about 30 minutes left, so let's see how much we can get done of the rest of this kingdom world building section. Maybe we only do myths and legends, so I feel like that could be a pretty big chunk, and then we'll do the rest on Thursday. I might have been a little bit deluded when I thought that I could finish the myths and legends before 12. It's now after 12. I'm not finished with the myths and legends yet because I kind of, without trying to spoil anything, I kind of came up with a new type of magic that's different from the other type of magic, but that kind of ties back to some of the ideas that I had for my main character and some other, I guess you could say, like relics or objects in the story. So now obviously this is an entirely different type of magic, so it has like its own rules and abilities and origins and things like that. So that is what I'm currently busy with. I think apart from that I'm done with the other myths and legends, and then obviously there's just like some mythical magical creatures that I still want to do, but I think I'm going to put that in the magical creature section. But like I said, it's off 12. I think I'm going to have to call it quits for now. So I'm going to try and finish the magic. Maybe I could finish it tonight, but I want to be realistic, and I don't think I'm going to continue working on this when I come back from work. So I'm probably going to finish it on Thursday. But I think that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep watching the Lord of the Rings prequel and listening to the Lord of the Rings audiobook. And I also really like Tolkien's approach to world building, so I feel like I want to try and continue to pursue that as I'm doing world building for this series. I like that he takes walks, that he writes in the mornings, and that he likes to drink tea. So I feel like there's many things from his writing routine which I could probably implement into my own writing routine, which I have really enjoyed. So but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next writing book.